eyes in the shape of eyes, and eyes are always going to be in the shape of a circle, which hopefully we can see here clearly, or an ellipse, even if it's off at an angle like this. I realize these are not symmetrical. And the idea is pretty straightforward. We want to be able to do pages upon pages of an eye of one type and then move on to an eye of a separate type that we like. There are a lot of different ways to draw anime eyes, but the fundamentals of how to draw an eye always stay the same. We're going to have a face, which is usually represented by a circle. Oftentimes it's bisected down the center for being straight on. We'd have another line somewhere around here. Then you would see these brought together very sharply as a chin in anime. Even if I'm off, that's okay. And I'm drawing very heavy so we can see this. This acts as a guideline for us to put our eyes either dead center on them, at the top of them, or underneath them. However you see fit. These are just reference lines, skeleton lines, guidelines. They'll help us develop other structures of the face in the future, but for now, this is how they work. And this is actually the simple structure of how a skull looks. Although this isn't quite what a skull looks like, it is close to what a skull looks like, so you get an idea of why these exist and you can erase them and touch them up. If you're using pencil, you should be drawing more faintly than this. And we would have another guideline if you wanted to draw on top of this and be very professional. You would put another guideline right up around here so that your circles for your eyes would be on the same plane and you would be able to keep them symmetrical. And that should hopefully make sense. This is why you see everyone doing this in such a fashion. If we were being very quick and dirty about this, you would have someone kind of just going like this and this. And you'll have to excuse me as I am trying to draw over a camera here, so you'll have to excuse my ugliness. And that's how you get those basic structures of a face. And in reality, it would actually be down there. And that's often why anime just has that pointed chin instead of having it like that or like this, because it's easier in animation to just go quickly and draw it to that point and be done, and everything is on model as it can be. But we're going to focus on just the eye itself, so I'm going to flip over my sheet so we're on a cleaner side for the purpose of this camera. If you have not done the exercise from draw a box where you're drawing two lines and then drawing ellipses in between them, you should go do that. If you've never done that in your life, this will help you to draw circles in between two planes and be successful at doing that. Getting onto the eye itself, what we want to do is draw a circle of some facsimile. Doesn't matter how ugly it is. I like to draw in my eye right afterwards the actual eyeball, and I like to always draw mine sort of like this. This is always the angle mine are at. We're going over that, and then put the shiny in immediately. This is how I've come to do them, and then having this little bit of detail here in it. And it gives us sort of that off to the side. Then rotating my paper, I always make sure there's extra line weight on the top part, and I can extend them out a little bit, and they can be real sharp here. We're going to do the same here. You should be able to extend your paper better than I am because I'm running into my tripod that's shaking. And this is a facsimile of what we want an anime eye to look like. And we would add line weight and darken it up here. And we would do the same at the bottom for our eye right now. And we would add line weight. That's a bad line weight, but that's okay. You guys are getting the idea. You would want to keep it in that perfect circle, but that's fine. That's why we have erasers. And we would darken that in as well. But the line weight here, which is one of the concepts I want to touch on, and our line weight underneath here, that helps sell some depth and the idea that the eyeball is behind and inside the eye socket. Although we're not drawing 3D eyes, that still should be some illusion of depth, some illusion of line weight and shading and shadowing. I like to draw my eyelashes like this, and we feather them off where we kind of airplane out as we go. And I'm doing this exaggerated for the purpose of showing you where we're going to do that out. And then our eyelashes on the underneath, oftentimes in anime you see this shape, and I'm going to draw a large one here for you where you have this shape. And I want to go over how we're going to draw this weird triangle shape in a second, and it would get darkened in. But the eyelashes underneath, for the purpose of a head-on, eye, you don't need a ton, but you do want them to be fairly short for the purpose of how an eye looks. And I realize this is dirty, and that's fine. I'm not worried because I'm not inking this at the moment. We would clean it up and ink it afterwards. And then above the eye in these little tutorials, you often see these things for the close-ups of the eyes. And if I show you here, it's this little like branching twig. I actually don't like those a lot because I feel like they distract from how the eye should look. If you're doing a close-up, maybe it's easier. But the eyelash itself, or the eyebrow rather, the eyebrow itself is usually something that follows close to the entire size of the eye itself. And you kind of want to go back over it and you would fill that in. Even if it's ugly on here as I'm drawing from memory, we would still have this concept be the same. And how we angle them sells emotion. How we angle everything, the type of eyebrows, the type of eye shape we use sells emotion. And that's what I'm going to be pulling up in the reference sheets. But I wanted to go over understanding this so that you're doing your lessons on drawing ellipses and drawing circles. And that you're doing your eyes inside of one another. An eye is not just a circle inside a circle and you're done. I don't care how that looks. That is not going to cut it. No matter how quick and ugly it is, this is not okay. You know, if you just are drawing a circle inside a circle, even like this, where you have it, that's still not fully done and acceptable because you're dogging it, you're half-assing it. It should be more where you have that line weight added, where you actually have some semblance of what that eye structure is. If you want to draw like this in advance and put a circle in, that's also okay. That's one way of doing it. And then you can put your pupil inside. And I like these eyes a lot too. They have this nice, really quick way of drawing eyes. You can kind of put them in towards each other. I actually like that style of eye very much. And then you can have your eyebrow very easily above it, very easily done. So there are different ways of drawing the eyeball, but at the end of the day, you're still drawing an ellipse, and you're still drawing an ellipse inside an ellipse, inside an ellipse. But just drawing a circle inside a circle quickly is, I mean, that's cheap. Don't do that. Learn to do it the more difficult ways, the more detailed ways, the more complex ways, and then you can move on if you were doing animation and just try to draw your two circles like we're going to be the Powerpuff Girls here and kind of be like, ooh, woo, and that's that. But for now, don't do that. Getting back to that shape of the face, when we go to do more of this, I want to make sure you guys are lining up your eyes. I draw mine on top oftentimes, but you need to be lining up your eyes so that they're on the same field and symmetrical when we're facing head on. If you can't sell that basic, and I'm doing it with no ruler over a tripod, if you can't do that, then you need to go back and practice, because this is crucial in order to be able to convey what a face looks like to your audience. And I'm going to go over some common questions again in this, which is that a circle and an ellipse and what they kind of mean. Very quick, and I'm going to give you 20 seconds. A circle has a permanent and fixed diameter. We can make for 4 quadrants on. That's a circle. If I spun my pencil, we'd have a circle. An ellipse is any form of distorted circle where if I drew a line through it here and here, they wouldn't be equal. The distance between the center isn't equal. There'd be one smaller than the other, major and minor axes. So that's the difference between the two. But if you can't draw that round organic shape in some facsimile, and I'm trying to use my elbow here around a tripod, you really should be using your elbow and shoulder and wrist in the ranges of all 3 of them, depending on the size of your shape. If you are having a hard time doing that, go and practice. I can promise you the first time I did, my arm was very, very sore after the fact. I'm drawing very heavy, even though I'm using a light lead for the purpose of showing up on this film. Using digital, you have all the tricks in the world, but you want to draw fairly faint with your guidelines, just enough for you to see. And this serves a practical purpose. It's so that you can erase and build up on it and not have a bunch of ugly garbage underneath. And when I talk about inking, you can take a piece of paper and put this on a light board, which is what I'm drawing on at the moment. and you can go over this with a light board and pen, or you can draw directly on top of this in pen and then erase after the pen has dried a little bit so that you have it inked and it's permanent. That's kind of a comic book way of doing it, or I came from working in a tattoo shop, so that helps. Everyone I know works in comics and tattoos, so it's commonplace to see them do that. And of course, digital is always easiest to do. As I wrap up this video, because I wanted to physically show you just some very simple things, and it's fine if your stuff's ugly, you have all the room in the world to improve and fix it. As I wrap it up though, I want to go over that you should be drawing every single day. You should be trying to keep your eyes symmetrical, even if you're just drawing them on a piece of paper like I am, as that is a discipline unto itself. And that you should be trying to fill out 5 pages of these for the exercise before you move on. And if you've come from exercise 1, lesson 1, you should not be doing this yet. You should go back and do that, because those are ellipses for mouths, which are similar to the ellipses we're drawing here. This video isn't monetized, so that's not why it's over 10 minutes. I don't really care about that. This is to accompany the lesson that's on the subreddit as it is. This is heavily borrowed from Uncomfortable, from Draw a Box, and that's important to know, because if you want to get better at your art fundamentals as a whole, you should go over there and you will be taught the hardest lessons, but they do function and they do work. That's all that I have to say for today. You guys take care and good luck drawing. And it's where we're trying to draw things to a point. This comes in handy with hair, fangs, and I'm going to try to have it focus in on that for you. So hair and fangs and things where we're drawing a line, and then in order to get that sharper point, we taper in to that line as we go. So they actually meet and form that point. But you'll notice that I'm going towards the point to get this sharp point, where I'm going towards it. Doesn't matter where I meet it, I'm always going towards it to get a sharper point. That's how if you can get a sharp point not doing that, all the power to you. But you'll notice, like this, you start to round. If you try to do that, it'll get rounder. It doesn't always have that same sharpness. And you can try to come back on it, and it will kind of work, but not always. And underneath eyelashes in anime, you'll see sort of these two convex, might be concave and I'm an idiot, shapes sort of come to a head with a triangle like that. And that's one of the underneath eyelashes, and then they're filled in black. But other instances for eyebrows, and some eyelashes are drawn this way, but eyebrows as well, are where you would start at the point and come off of it, and it would give you a little bit more of a roundness. So you would have that, and it has that round edge you'll notice here. That round edge that gets formed. So I'm going to go over it one more time. This is sort of for these eyelashes, if you want them sharper, where you're coming to a head and you're meeting as you go, as opposed to starting at that and then coming off and getting these very round points. And maybe you've been struggling, and I'm exaggerating how round they are at the moment. Maybe you've been struggling in some of your points. You're doing this, where you have this roundness, and then you're going, oh, I'm just going to add this. Then it doesn't work. It's like garbage. So that's because you're being impatient as you go. You're not curving out, or you're trying to draw a sharp point from there, and it's much easier to do by coming together. It's much, much easier to do coming together like that. And I wanted to go over that because it affects eyelashes. And if you have a fountain pen, it's the best to draw eyelashes for, because you're able to just do these lines like that, and it ends up looking really nice on them. And I'm aware of how ugly some of these things look, and I stand by what Bob Ross would say, which is it's fine to have these little ugly things. The point of all of this is so that you guys can get a start for what your lesson should be. This is just a demonstration on the things you should be doing and practicing for this lesson. This is not a final product. This is an example of how to start the mechanics of this lesson.